Hey everyone, my name's Lily and I'm the book blogger behind Utopia State of Mind, and I'm bringing you today my March wrap up. You should also probably get a drink before this starts because I have a lot to talk about. By the way, just in case you didn't know, there are also chapter sections at the bottom, so if you want to skip ahead to certain parts, definitely feel free to do so. I'm going to have a lot of mini reviews, a lot of knitting updates, and just a lot of things to talk about in general. So for a kind of just overview of how March went, I'm pretty sure, I don't know if my Excel sheet's wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I think I read 51 books, which doesn't seem real, so I still don't know. It is on the Excel sheet, but it just doesn't feel real to say that and doesn't feel real to see. But in March, if you hadn't seen, I had a lot of panels. I think I had 7 panels over 4 weekends. So that's a lot. I'll leave the link to the entire playlist of panels down below, but I think that is mainly why I had so many books that I read. Also, if you didn't know, there was also the Trans Rights Readathon, the 20th to the 27th, which is also when I read a lot of books. I had reviewing commitments, but I also tried to read specific books for that readathon. I will link all of those videos or the playlist for those videos down below as well. So it was just a really intense reading month. I felt like I was reading a minimum 6 books at a time, every day. My goal for April, and I've been slowly working towards it, is only reading 5 books maximum at a time, which seems totally strange to say because I'm a 1 book at a time kind of person who's been kind of forced to read multiple books at a time. So yeah, in April I have a lot less panels. I only have 1 panel in April. 1, maybe 2 panels in April. So definitely a lot less panels in April, but I have a bunch concentrated in May and June on certain weekends. So I'm slowly working my way up to those dates. So I'll still have a bunch to read anyway, as if my TBR was not overflowing. Of the 51 books, 43% of those featured queer characters as main characters, and 55% of those with characters of color as main characters. So very excited about those stats. I was really, really happy with how many queer characters or queer main characters I read. This also happened not only because of the Trans Rights Readathon, but beforehand I was really building up momentum until kind of the last part of March. So very happy when this sort of organically happens. I pat myself a little bit on the back to know I'm doing things right by picking books or reading diversely, actively reading diversely. So next I want to show you some knitting/crocheting updates. I'm still crocheting, I'm still knitting. At the beginning of March, I had to take some time off because I was still injured. My wrist was injured. So I feel like maybe I was only crocheting or knitting for 2/3 of the month. But March was the month of flower pots. I crocheted 3 of them in various permutations. So I will be inserting clips for those 3 because they are gone to their forever homes. So the first one I did, which was just a lighter green Monstera leaf plant coaster set. I've been really loving these coaster sets, and I've been giving them away as housewarming gifts. By the way, if you're expecting a gift from me, you probably should just skip ahead. Forewarning. So I liked the light green ones a lot. I think that they're still Monstera plant leaves, but they're a little bit more subtle than the green ones, the dark green ones. The dark green ones are you can tell for sure that's what it is. But I thought the light green ones are really nice. They're nice for spring. So I liked that. I also started incorporating stripes into the pots, which is still something I'm not really good at. I'm not good at stripes at all, period. And then I also crocheted a Monstera plant coaster pot end set, which were kind of colorful. So basically I did the leaves half one color, half another color, and I actually really enjoyed this. I think it's kind of fun because if you're entertaining a lot of people, it also serves as kind of drink markers. I was able to play with some different color combinations, and that was really fun. I got to buy some new yarn for that, and because I got to buy new yarn for it, I was trying to think about what else I could do, because at this point this was my 3rd kind of set of these Monstera plant coasters, and I was kind of like, I like them, I'm getting into a rhythm, but like, can I do more, right? Can I expand my crocheting skill set? Yes, I could. So the third pot, the pot pattern was a little bit different. I don't know how honestly that went, but the coasters were flowers. So you can kind of see they look a little bit like tulips, which was really fun, and they're much, much bigger. And I was able to use the leftover yarn from the second sort of Monstera plant set, and some other colors that I'd bought for it but didn't actually end up working out. So able to use those to make these flower ones. I think they look really, really cute. I tried to show it to you in the video with like a cup on top. They're also much bigger. But I had some extra yarn, and I was able to make one extra of these coasters. As you can tell, based on the size of my face, they're pretty large. This was the original color scheme I went with. I really like this. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it. So definitely you shouldn't be watching this if you're expecting future gifts from me. But I also, from that other set, had leftover ones from these. I like this better. If you couldn't tell based on like what I wear and me on the internet, I'm kind of a warm color toned kind of person. So I really, really love these ones. I also have some yarn left, so I think I can still make maybe one more. So I might keep this one. I'm not sure. I have some also future plans that I'm gonna start on tomorrow. Very excited. I won't share until they're done. And then actually, I was able to finish a sweater vest thing. If you remember, I think in a February wrap up, I showed you that kind of succulent, sagey, like bluish colored sweater, which was really, really big. But I had bought yarn to make kind of a red one. So this is it. As you can tell, it's not finished. I have to weave in a lot of edges. It also doesn't have the neck. I literally just finished the shoulder bind off of this last night. I wanted to finish at least that before the end of March. Very excited for this. These are just like chunky, fat sweaters. They are like, when you fold them up, they're just really, really big, but they're very, very warm, very, very soft. And I thought that maybe I'd be able to get a whole sweater done, and the answer will be no. I definitely do not have enough yarn. In general, I'm like, I don't really want to keep buying like yarn to make up for projects I don't have. The lot numbers and the die numbers just never work out. And even when this one, I'd bought 4 skeins of one at one time and 2 skeins at a different time, like literally a day apart, but ordered them online. And they were completely different. It ended up being that the whole back is one color skein and the whole front is a different lot skein. You can't really necessarily tell the difference so much, but I know. And I think for that reason, I'm just going to use whatever yarn I have left to do like the seaming and to do the neckline, and that's it. So that was all of my knitting and crocheting kind of behind the reader updates. In terms of personally how I feel behind the reader, March was a lot. March was a lot of reading, a lot of I had these like deadlines to do these crocheting gifts for people. It was just a lot in general. I tried to post almost every day for the Trans Rights Readathon. That was a lot too. March was a lot. No major like awful things basically in March. So I guess so far it's the best of the months. But it was just super, super, super stressful. I'm hoping to like take a little bit of a break in April, get a little bit of like a vacation mental headspace kind of break. So yeah. And now I'm going to talk about my mini reviews. I have a bunch. But they're all like super sporadically over. So I'm going to be organizing them mostly by age group. Just because I was thinking, should I do them by genre? But it just ended up being this weird kind of mishmash of things. So I'm going to do them by age group, and I'm actually going to start with middle grade. I'm going to work my way up, basically. Middle grade, these were all three middle grades from the queer debut Kidlit panel I did. Loved, 5 stars, so great. It was The Song of Us, Skating on Mars, and Jude Saves the World. I've talked a lot about Skating on Mars and Jude Saves the World because I featured it a bunch in the Trans Rights Readathon. But basically, The Song of Us is a lyrical, in-verse, middle grade, sapphic, Orpheus and Eurydice, Greek mythology, contemporary world book, all those words in one book. This was just really, really gorgeously lyrical. I loved the way that Kate was able to go from like the title of each sort of poem throughout and the actual content of the poem. I talked a little bit about that with Kate in the panel. But anyway, it was just so tender. And I think that I loved how sort of Eurydice was given a voice more. I think that the Orpheus and Eurydice tale is often very much based on Orpheus. So I really loved that it was able to give both of these characters the space and the ability to grow and to bloom as characters. This was such a cute middle grade book as well, queer middle grade book. So I definitely really loved it. I think it's a really cute, like, first introduction into people's or readers' verse experiences. I've personally really loved verse books. I have another one that I'm going to talk about later. And the next one is Skating on Mars. I really, really loved Skating on Mars. I kind of have really always loved figure skating. Just the sport and the athleticism of it. I've loved watching it. I feel like in the Olympics, that was one of the only kind of winter sports I'm really watching. So Skating on Mars was already going to be a book that I was really excited for, but it just has so much heart in the characters and the way that they are able to sort of make a big impact with their own choices. Like what was theirs? I saw a quote from some person the other day. Actually, I know who it was. I saw a quote from Taylor Swift the other day, which she was saying that, like, at no point did she decide one day to become an innovator. She just always tried to make the right decision for her, or the best decision at that time. And I think that Skate on Mars is definitely an example of that for middle grade readers. It was inspiring. I loved this middle grade so much. It was just really, really great. And I think we were also talking about that in the queer kidlit debut panel. It also ends up being super on topic at the moment, especially because of all of the kind of discussions about sports and gender and competition and all of that. The next one is Jude Saves the World, which has similar reasons why I love it, with also Skating on Mars. I think it's really inspiring, and I think that it talks about the individual choices that we can make that make a large impact for people, and how one person's individual contribution can make a difference, and also how it like kind of ripples effect throughout our actions, which influence another person, etc., etc. So Jude Saves the World was also a really charming middle grade book about friendship. Specifically, I think the friendship troubles and the friendship struggles that Jude goes through in Jude Saves the World was one of my favorite. I think that we don't talk enough, in my opinion, about like friendship breakups, friendship drama, in that kind of sense. And so seeing this in a middle grade perspective, I think is going to help a lot of middle grade readers. And it was really kind of affirming for me to read as not a middle grade reader. The next one is I want to talk about YA books that I really loved. The first one is Bianca Torre is Afraid of Everything. I've also talked about this a lot from the Trans Rights Readathon. I love this. It's a comedic thriller. It feels kind of weird to describe it as a comedic thriller, but there's this really core mystery thriller vibe throughout the whole thing, and there's like danger associated with it. I think that kind of ramps up a lot more at the end, but throughout this, it has a really beautiful story about found family and friendship, and also this kind of comedy element to it. Like, you also are thinking, oh, this is kind of dangerous and kind of creepy, but there's also like a humorous edge to it. So comedic thriller, I think, is probably the best way to describe it, but it feels kind of like jumbo shrimp style to it. The next one is Under and Santi Were Here, which is one I have. I have these books on my lap. Under and Santi Were Here. I also talked a lot about this in the Trans Rights Readathon, but this was such a beautiful, moving story about love and about like not knowing what's gonna happen next. What I really loved, it was especially Under's story about trying to figure out their own kind of like art style and their own place in the world. I thought this was really, really relatable. I mentioned it in my book review video, which I will link below, so I won't talk too much about this because I said a lot of those thoughts there. The next one is Into the Light, which was kind of just emotionally gutting. I have been a fan of Mark Oshiro for a very, very long time, ever since Anger is a Gift. So I was really excited for Into the Light, which I think is the most recent YA release from Mark. I could be wrong, but I think so. And Into the Light was just emotionally heart-wrenching. You definitely should check out the trigger warnings, but it is a book about family and a book about love and friendship and family that can hurt us and support us, and found family is a huge theme in Into the Light. I think also it provides a look not only at religious trauma, but also at the foster system in the US, for example. As an adopted person, I really, really loved this. It's not necessarily an experience I can relate to because I was not adopted within the US, but anyway, that is something that I really also loved from Into the Light. I love supporting other adopted creators, and so Into the Light is definitely something I would recommend. The next one is Venom and Vow, which I also read for the trans rights readathon. This whole YA section is dominated by that theme, but Venom and Vow was something that I really loved. Anna Marie McLemore is an autobi author, so I don't know what I was expecting, but Venom and Vow is so gorgeous in the way that it combines identity and struggles with identity and lived experiences, and sort of power and legacy and rulership in a fantasy setting with non-binary identities, with bigender identities, with all of these non-gender conforming identities, also rooted within disabled creators and disabled identity as well. I love how Venom and Vow is able to kind of combine and merge these identities into a lived fantasy world, which I think we don't really see that often, especially in fantasy settings. So I really appreciate Venom and Vow for that, but also the characters in it was so gorgeously empathetic, and even in their mistakes and their flaws, they were just characters that you could root for from the beginning. I love their interactions between each other and the definite different layers of kind of betrayal and subterfuge and multiple identities. So Venom Vow overall was just the total package. And the last one is the verse novel that I was talking about before, which was An Appetite for Miracles. This is written by the same author as Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet and Heartbreak Symphony, and one of the things I really loved about both of those books was how lyrical it was. So then when I saw An Appetite for Miracles, which is a verse novel from the same author, I was so excited, and it totally still has and resonates those lyrical qualities of the writing with An Appetite for Miracles. And what I also loved is the way that you're able to kind of distill these themes of kind of family and loss and grief and tentative friendship, tentative love, all of these kinds of things together into a verse setting where you're not necessarily getting all of the descriptions or all of the, literally all of the words as you would get in a other different type of novel. And so I loved how you can really see the care and you can really see all of these themes shine through. And it just felt like a distilled sense of everything I loved about those first two books. I thought that the themes of grief and food and connecting it all, which you've seen in the other two books as well, but I thought that they were really beautifully and eloquently done in An Appetite for Miracles, so definitely loved that one. The next three are adult recommendations, all very different, but the first is Family Style. This is a graphic novel memoir. This was so gorgeous, not only in the ways, I'm talking a lot about food, not only in the ways that it was able to merge food and family and assimilation, specifically in the United States. That was also really heartwarming and really affirming to see as an Asian American. But I think it also had a really great use of panel space and sort of graphically as a graphic novel. I really appreciated these elements. I think that as I read more and more graphic novels, I'm able to appreciate the elements of style of graphic novel, color palette, drawing style, the way that they use negative space and sort of description and background, all of these different things. And so Family Style for me really kind of solidified that in a way, the way that they're able to balance all of these different elements all together, and also the story roots it together too. It was this really great graphic novel memoir. I don't read a lot of those. But actually, I say that now, but I realized I read a lot of graphic novel memoirs, specifically in March. But Family Style is one of those things which just makes me really appreciative of the different voices and drawing styles that kind of exist in the graphic novel sphere. The next one is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. This is like cozy mystery personified. I've really loved the Dial A for Auntie series by the same author. But Vera Wong's kind of just took everything I really loved about those books and amplified it. It has really great characters. I loved all the food references. It also feels kind of cozy because you're never kind of like, while there is danger and while there are stakes, you're never really kind of like, oh, is this going to turn out okay? Like, there's always this cozy sort of hammock of support, I guess. But Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers was all of that to the like 1,000th degree. I really loved the essence of found family, specifically in Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, the way that Vera is like able to be super charming and caring and meddlesome, but also bring these people together, partly with food, but also with her kind of infectious personality. And her determination. Vera was just such a strong character, and these other side characters, which we get to see glimpses throughout the book, were also really gorgeously woven in with the story. And it felt to me, I think I wrote my review for this last night, it was like cozy mystery meets like Love Actually in the way that these characters expand and bloom around Vera. And the last one I want to talk about for the adult favorites were The Lies of a Jungo. This is a novella, but it's a novella that I immediately finished and wanted to reread and kind of told everyone I knew about this plot because it is something that the novella packs so much of an introspective thematic punch. It is difficult to talk about because I can't spoil it for you, but it really delves into this idea of truth and belief and sort of what is that worth and sacrifice, all of these different things. And it's one of those things where you kind of read it and you're interested in it, at least for me, and then I immediately kind of got more and more hooked the more I read it. And basically by the end, I was so entranced and just entirely obsessed. I think that this is going to be the beginning of a series as well. So very, very excited for that. I finished it and immediately started telling other people about the plot because I could not keep it in. But it is a great segue where I talk now about series starters that I read. And the next one that I want to talk about is The Mimicking of Known Successes. This is a novella series, which is the first in a novella series. It's like sci-fi. It also has an element of cozy mystery, not so much as Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers, but The Mimicking of Known Successes is super character driven. I would say that 75% character, 25% mystery slash mystery. I think that the mystery elements and the thematic elements of the world really bloom in the latter half, like the last 30%. Personally, that's what was the strongest to me. I loved the ideas of the themes and the ways that it talks about like mimicking of known successes. And it really builds upon these things that we'd seen earlier in the novella. Thematically, I thought that was stronger at the end. It takes a while to get there, but I thought they were stronger at the end. In terms of characters, I still really enjoy the characters of The Mimicking of Known Successes. It's kind of like your ex comes back. It turns out that she's like a detective and she needs your help and you're not a detective. And how do you put your detective hat on and also worry about your past person? Like, that was the character dynamics in The Mimicking of Known Successes. I'm intrigued to see how that kind of blooms within the series. I don't know how many books there'll be. I don't know what they're going to be about, but I did like their dynamic, and so I'm interested to see how that progresses. And the final one is that I read The Witch King, which was, I listened to an audiobook. I immediately wanted to start The Fae Keeper, but I have to go back and listen to some NetGalley audiobook arcs. But I really enjoyed The Witch King. I loved the way that it's able to blend contemporary fantasy and like urban fantasy elements. But also, I think what is the strongest about The Witch King are the characters, specifically the main character, who honestly I can't remember the names of. I read 51 books. Like, if I could remember my own name after that, that would be the accomplishment. But in The Witch King, I loved how the main character has to really reconcile identity and also how he feels about like the past. It has a lot of reckoning of the past and how the past has kind of rippled through to the present and also to the future. In the last like 10%, a lot of things are happening to set up the sequel. So I think that's why I was like, I have to read the sequel now, because a lot of stuff happens to set up the sequel. Honestly, until that point, I was kind of like, this technically feels like it could be a standalone. But after that last 10%, I'm like, okay, I get it. I get where the sequel is going now. I definitely would recommend it if you've seen it around. This is part of the Trans Rights Readathon that I was reading this for. And I think that it lives up to the hype that I had seen of it. I'm very excited. I have a signed copy somewhere in my house, which I could not find and have not been able to find. I know I bought it from Oblong Books. Excited to one day find that. It'll be a nice surprise, but definitely would recommend it. The audiobook narration is also pretty good, and I think that it has a lot of complex characters who become more complex at the end, but who you can kind of appreciate as they're going on, if that makes any sense. And finally, I want to talk about 2 sequels. I know that I've kind of been talking about these because review-wise, they feel a little bit different than reviewing series starters and also standalones. I want to talk about that I finished Return to Cherry Blossom Way, and I also finished The House on Mulberry Street. These are the 2nd and 3rd books in the Inn on Sweetbriar Lane series. It's about May and... is the other one Elizabeth? Names, again. I only say May because I can see this one. These are the books 2 and 3. I think that if you really like contemporary romance series, definitely recommend these. I think they're kind of like an underappreciated gem in terms of the way that Jeannie is able to bring out the themes of sisterhood and keep expanding on the town, honestly, because I wasn't sure where the town was going to go in these 2 books, but I'm really happy with how it did go. And I think that this is really a great way to kind of get hooked into a series. I also think that, like, from the covers alone, you might not necessarily get the vibes right. What I really would love is if they did different covers with the characters on that, because the characters are truly the core of this series, and the sisters specifically is what, like, keeps me going and reading. If I had to pick a favorite of the 3, this is what I would do. As an overall one, probably the first one, The Inn on Sweetbriar Lane. As a main character, though, I really love May from Return to Cherry Blossom Way, and love interest-wise, I think Graham from the House on Mulberry Street is probably my favorite. So definitely should read all 3 then, so you get all 3 of my favorites. So that is the end of this gigantically long March wrap-up. I hope you were able to use the chapters. I hope you were able to enjoy your snack and or drink. I had a lot to share. And I hope that you've all had a really great March. I've already started planning April out. And as I said, I have some panels coming up. Definitely will see that around social media. And yeah, I'm just really tired now. Tired after March. Tired after filming this video, and I will see you in April. Hopefully after I've rejuvenated a little bit, like, you know, enjoyed the spring weather, enjoyed the different temperature, maybe got some more sun. So I will see you in the next video, and also the next wrap-up, I guess, because I honestly never know what video is coming next. And I hope that you had a great March. Let me know what your favorite book was down below, or what you're excited to read in April. And I'll see you in the next one.